The AMC networks have attached a trigger warning to the classic mafia movie Goodfellas. The warning reads, quote, and as God is my witness, I'm not making this up, "This film includes language and/or cultural stereotypes that are inconsistent with today's standards of inclusion and tolerance and may offend some viewers," unquote. Apparently, AMC was concerned the violent antics of Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci would offend those viewers who wish to include and tolerate Italian Americans, so Italian Americans won't set their restaurant on fire and empty a .38 into their face before burying their bullet-riddled body in the Jersey Pine Barrens. Now, some people may feel that putting a trigger warning on Martin Scorsese's greatest film is an idea so stupid it must have been dreamed up by some dribble-faced DEI hire who can't tell the difference between sensitivity and a whoopee cushion. But AMC defended the action in a statement issued by Paul Dribbleface, vice president in charge of sensitivity or whoopee cushions, like whichever. The Dribbleface statement reads, quote, "Me are putting warning words on moving picture story to show watching people's AMC be sensitivity-like toward Italian Americans so Italian Americans don't kill us because they is all gangsters," unquote. The statement goes on to say that AMC will be adding appropriate trigger warnings to other classic movies as well. For instance, Steven Spielberg's Schindler's List will now come with a warning that reads, "This film depicts virulent anti-Semitism followed by the mass slaughter of Jews, as if that were a bad thing, and may therefore offend students at Harvard University." The 1939 classic Wizard of Oz will come with a warning that reads, "This film depicts dwarves as absolutely adorable little creatures who sing in hilarious high-pitched voices and wear gaily colored clothes while prancing happily around a skipping girl," which may offend those dwarves who are still bitter about the fact that Snow White treated them like desexualized children, but was perfectly willing to put out for the first tall guy who came riding up out of nowhere and kissed her without her consent. The Humphrey Bogart perennial Casablanca will begin with a notice that warns viewers, "This film depicts Americans sacrificing their personal happiness to defeat a threat to world peace and freedom, and is inconsistent with today's American standards of total selfishness masquerading as political courage or resistance or some other damn thing when it's really just a bunch of ill-educated adolescent ding-dongs risking absolutely nothing while hiding behind masks and screaming at people." And of course, the American epic Gone with the Wind will now include the warning, "This film may trigger Me Too victims because it includes a depiction of a woman using sex to get what she wants and then not complaining about it or blaming someone else." Also, we're not totally sure Black people were really quite this happy about being slaves. With some films, AMC plans to simply edit out any offensive material that might cause viewer discomfort. For example, the scene in Goldfinger where Sean Connery smacks a girl on the backside and tells her to run along has been deleted so it won't upset feminists by reminding them that getting smacked on the backside by Sean Connery is actually one of their life goals. The scene in Dracula where the vampire bites a scantily clad girl on the throat will be deleted because most of the AMC audience is the same age as Dracula and we don't want to give them any ideas. By attaching trigger warnings to classic movies and editing out offensive scenes, executives at AMC are hoping to cement their reputation as the dumbest group of human beings who can still manage to dress themselves without falling over. That way, when people finally realize there's no longer any point in watching movies interrupted by commercials, they might still send a few dollars to the AMC staff out of pity, realizing anyone idiotic enough to put a trigger warning on great old movies is unlikely to be able to find another job after their moronic network vanishes up the fundament of its own stupidity. Trigger warning, this podcast depicts AMC executives as a bunch of vulgarian imbeciles. Also, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show. All right. I always thought dwarves were delightful little creatures. We're back laughing our way through the fall of the Republic. Klavan Klapbacks at DailyWire.com. That's where you go to file your complaints against all the things I said that offended you deeply or lavish me with praise because you agree with every word I say like a sane human being. It's Klavan with a K and Klapbacks, also with a K. Klavan Klapbacks at DailyWire.com. You can watch us on DailyWire Plus if you don't want to see us get censored by some of the other places. And you can also get our interviews on Wednesday. Those are everywhere on the RSS feed, YouTube, everywhere. Last week was Riley Gaines. Oh, that was great. I was really interested in what she was saying. That incredible story from Riley Gaines. And this week I'll be talking to Curtis Yarvin. If you've never heard of him, he's a very influential writer on the right. He used to go by the name Mencius Moldbug. The dissident right loves him, and I'm kind of hoping he'll explain some of what he thinks. And if you leave a comment, and the comment is either fatuous and just utterly stupid or evil, we'll put it on the show because that's his natural place. Today's comment comes from Daily Wire Plus, is from Barrel of Monkeys, who says, I saw a post with a picture of a bear captioned, "He wouldn't ask a woman with a PhD to get in the kitchen." And I thought, yes, he would, if he could talk. That's the women. Are women more afraid of men or of bears? Obviously, you're more afraid of men because we would ask you to get in the kitchen where you belong. Today's episode, Is America Over? So I hear a lot from young dissident right-wingers that the American experiment has either failed or that its successes were just accidents of history. It actually never succeeded. And we were discussing this on Backstage. It was a really interesting discussion. But while I was there, with Ben and Knowles and Walsh and Jeremy, I didn't want to give the right answer because then they wouldn't have anything to talk about. So I saved it. I'm going to give it here at the end of the show. But first, let's take a look at where we are now in Chapter 1, The Not So Grand Illusion. Gratitude fills my heart when I reflect on the sheer luxury of lying awake all night on a Helix mattress. I'm going to lie awake no matter where I am, but on a Helix mattress, I know this is not just a piece of furniture. It's a cocoon of comfort that cradles me as I lie awake, or in your case, as you sleep. Helix harnesses years of mattress expertise to offer a truly elevated sleep experience. The Helix Elite Collection includes 6 different mattress models, each tailored for specific sleep positions and firmness preferences. If you're nervous about buying a mattress online, you don't have to be. Helix has you covered with a unique sleep quiz that customizes your mattress based on your body type and sleep preferences. No more generic mattresses made for someone else. I took the Helix quiz. I was matched with a firm but breathable mattress specially made for people who love to lie awake on a comfortable mattress, and I do, and you will love yours too. Plus, Helix has a 10-year warranty, and you get to try it out for 100 nights risk-free. Helix's financing options and flexible payment plans ensure a great night's sleep is never far away. Helix is offering my listeners 30% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows. Go to helixsleep.com/Klavan, helixsleep.com/Klavan. This is their best offer yet. It won't last long. With Helix, better sleep starts now if, and only if, you know how to spell Klavan.
And there are no easy things.
So I don't know if you watched the Backstage. It was a pretty good one, I thought. We were talking about this question of whether America's over, whether we need a different form of government, or whether this government is collapsing, whether we wanted to or not. And we took questions, as we always do, from members toward the end of the show. And one of the things that I was kind of startled by was how all the political questions were kind of in a state of intensity, maybe even panic. Is it time for a civil war? If this happens, will everything fall apart? Have the Democrats rigged the vote so it doesn't matter what happened? And I was thinking, the right is often in a state of low-level panic, a low boil of panic, for a couple of reasons. One is that it's just part of the right-wing personality to be able to see that everything is a fabric. The society is a fabric, and religion is part of that fabric, and this law and that law, and everything's connected. And it's really easy to imagine when you pull one string, the entire suit is going to fall apart, although that's not true. Things have to change, and they morph, and they kind of meld and go forward. But every time something changes, right-wingers tend to panic. And the other thing is that right-wing media is on the rise. I mean, we now have a healthy, substantial, though secondary, it's less than this massive left-wing media that has already taken place. But still, there is now a substantial right-wing media. And it's to the advantage of talkers to make you panic. It's to the advantage of commentators to come on and say, oh, this is a big, big problem. Oh my goodness, this is a big, big, just like with doctors, if you drink a cup of coffee, your head's going to explode and all this stuff. But the fact is, there was a Harvard CAPS poll that came out recently that showed that the most favored institutions in the country are the U.S. military and the police, and the least favorite are Hamas, Antifa, China, the PLO, and campus protesters. So things are, pretty normal, really, in terms of where the people's minds are at. And the thing is, the left is also always in a panic, except in a way more so because their media is so pervasive. And I want to just take a look at the left-wing media today so you see how they feel. And you think about it, if you're hearing this kind of stuff from the right, it may be why you're feeling in a panic as well. There was this incredible thing that happened where Donald Trump, or whoever was working for Donald Trump, posted on Truth Social a pro-Donald Trump video made by somebody else. And it was a video that basically said, if Donald Trump gets reelected, all these great things are going to happen. And in the background were these newspapers, and you get these stock videos of newspapers that they're available online, and somebody just slapped them up, and that was kind of the background. And at one point, and I watched it once without even seeing it, even though I was looking for it, at one point, one of the headlines, these are just kind of random headlines that they throw together for these stock video things that you can use to make your video. And the text that appeared mentioned a unified Reich. It said German industrial strength and production had significantly increased after 1871, driven by the creation of a unified Reich. Now, they still use the word Reich in Germany. Obviously, everybody thinks of the Third Reich, the Nazi Reich, but a Reich means regime, and they still use that term to discuss the government. Here is how every lying scumball on the left, from Joe Biden himself to George Snuffleupagus, reported this. Cut one.
A unified Reich? That's Hitler's language. That's not America's. He cares about holding on to power. I care about you.
Okay, if you zoom in, you can see they slipped in the words, a unified Reich. A Fourth Reich, if you will.
At one point, the 30-second video has the words, creation of a unified Reich on the screen if he's reelected in November. Now, the word Reich is German. It means regime or empire, but it's, of course, most closely associated with Nazi Germany and the creation of a Third Reich.
Former president is under fire for a video he posted on social media that used language from Nazi Germany. The latest in a series of anti-Semitic and authoritarian statements from Trump and his campaign.
I seriously don't know how George Stephanopoulos sleeps at night. I really don't. Now, this, of course, happened throughout Donald Trump's administration, right? Cheryl Atkinson, great investigative reporter who was forced out of CBS because she did the same kind of investigative reporting about Obama that she did about George W., and they started to kill her stories. She was forced to leave, and then the Obama government tried to spy on her. And she made a list. I can't play the whole thing, but she made a list of the kinds of stories that they were reporting during the Trump administration. Let's cut to.
In June 2017, NBC News reported that Russian President Putin said he had compromising information about Trump. Actually, Putin said the opposite.
Do you have something damaging on our president?
Well, this is just another load of nonsense. Where would we get this information from?
The New York Times and CNN shared a story with photos of immigrant children in cages. It turns out the photos were from 2014. During the Obama administration. In November 2019, Newsweek falsely reported that President Trump was spending Thanksgiving golfing in Florida. He was actually in Afghanistan serving dinner to U.S. troops.
So close. They said he was golfing. He was actually in Afghanistan serving dinner to the troops on Thanksgiving. But this went on, and we all know it. And they're doing it to Judge Alito, Justice Alito now in the Supreme Court because they're trying to force out some of the conservative majority about a flag his wife put up upside down. It's just, it's absolutely shameful. But if you pause for a minute, and this is the thing, because their media is so vast, you meet ordinary people who just believe this stuff. And before you can even have a conversation with them about politics, if you want to have a polite conversation, you have to spend half an hour explaining to them that no, Donald Trump never said there were good people on both sides. So people, you can understand why people on the left are panicked. And if we're hearing the same sort of thing, we're going to be panicked. And I have an example of one guy on the left who actually has given up on democracy altogether. That's Joe Biden. He went to Morehouse College, a black all-male college, to give the commencement address. But before I play that, I want to play Obama. Obama spoke there in 2013. Okay, now I'm no big fan of Obama, but he was very good at what he did. And here is his speech to the graduating class, all male black kids, with this big achievement. They have graduated from college and they're ready to go. And here's what Barack Obama said.
And over the last 50 years, thanks to the moral force of Dr. King and a Moses generation that overcame their fear and their cynicism and their despair, barriers have come tumbling down. The new doors of opportunity have swung open, and laws and hearts and minds have been changed to the point where someone who looks just like you can somehow come to serve as president of these United States of America.
All right, so he's got the graduating class, young black men, someone who looks just like you guys. There's nothing in front of you but road, baby. You can go all the way to the White House. So here is Joe Biden doing his version of that speech at Morehouse. Here's Joe Biden's version of that.
You missed your high school graduation. You started college just as George Floyd was murdered. And there was a reckoning on race. It's natural to wonder if democracy you hear about actually works for you. What is democracy? If black men are being killed in the street, what is democracy? The trail of broken promises still leave black communities behind. What is democracy? You have to be 10 times better than anyone else to get a fair shot. And most of all, what does it mean, as we've heard before, to be a black man who loves his country, even if it doesn't love him back in equal measure?
It's like, congratulations, kids. Throw your hat into the air quick before a policeman kills you. It's like, what the hell was that? So they're listening to this, and, I don't know. I hope these kids are savvy enough and educated enough to be looking at this old crank thinking, what the hell is he talking about, right? So Trump hits back, right? The right has a right to hit back, and Trump hits back. He put out an ad. Who are the real bad guys? This is from the Trump War Room. This is cut 5.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
We were in high school. I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
The RNC headquarters had to go into lockdown. Just a while earlier this morning, there was a suspicious package delivered.
Suspicious package found near the Republican National Committee headquarters contained 2 vials of blood.
Take one to no one?
They're angry people. They are so angry people.
The Biden administration authorizing the use of deadly force during the FBI's raid on former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate in August of 2022.
We are
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. It's about the power we have in our own hands to meet these threats.
All right. A big difference between Trump's commercial and what the left does with the media is the left is lying, right? Trump is telling the truth, but you can see that the effect is the same. I mean, we sit around and we talk about the threats to free speech. There are genuine threats to free speech. We sit around and we talk to the threats about the threats to liberty, and there are always threats to liberty. But at the same time, we are here talking about it. There is a DailyWire. They do come after us. They do try to stifle us. We know this. I mean, YouTube has become absurd, and anybody mentions Hamas. If you even say Hamas and you're not an actual rapist and killer, it's okay if you're a rapist and killer because then you're part of Hamas. But if you actually say Hamas and talk about what they actually do, you can get tagged on YouTube, on a lot of social media. So yeah, they're trying to suppress us, but we're still here, and we're actually growing, and I think growing more powerful. And once people start to see, as Elon Musk saw, that there is a way to actually make this work and actually have a social media company that allows everybody to talk, I think that spreads. I think we're actually on a roll and going forward, even though they are, I'm not denying it, they are trying to stop us. So what I'm saying is, we got to step back a little bit and take a broad look. And in the next chapter, I'm going to take a look at the real threat that I think is really there, and yet at the same time, why it's not making me really, really afraid or in despair. The thing is, this is the information age. Everything is getting ramped up. There is a flood of information, very hard to tell the truth from lies. And I think it's important that we ask ourselves, how far gone are we exactly? Tossing and turning all night is a frustrating experience. You can take it from me because that's all I ever do. But there is a way that I found that I can at least get some sleep. When sleep is elusive, it's physically and mentally draining. That's why I love Beam. It's not just your run-of-the-mill sleep aid. It's a concoction carefully crafted to help you slip into the sweet embrace of rest without the grogginess that often accompanies other sleep remedies. Beam Dream contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. It's really good. It tastes good, and it really does just kind of ease you to sleep. I'm not kidding. And, with me, obviously, I'll get an hour or 2 hours, but you will, if you fall asleep, you will stay asleep. Today, my listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, their best-selling hot cocoa for sleep with no added sugar, now available in delicious flavors like cinnamon cocoa, chocolate peanut butter, and mint chip. Better sleep has never tasted better. Just mix Beam Dream into hot water or milk, stir or froth, and enjoy before bedtime. If you find yourself battling the bedtime blues, give it a shot. Your weary self will thank you. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, take advantage of 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/Klavan and use code Klavan at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Klavan with my promo code Klavan for up to 40% off your order. You know how to spell Beam. Why am I spelling Beam? I should be telling you how to spell Klavan. It's Klavan. There are no E's. I just make it look this easy.
There are no E's in Klavan.
Chapter 2, Trump the Hero. So, I don't know if Trump is a hero, but he's on a roll. Oh, sorry. That's only a joke on the East Coast. So, when I was at backstage and I was talking to the guys, I think all of them, Walsh, Knowles, all the on-air guys, Walsh, Knowles, and Ben, they all said that they were finding the Trump trial in New York boring. And I have to admit that I can't stop watching it or thinking about it. And I've been trying, I haven't been commenting about it all the time, and some of it I put behind the member wall, but it really is kind of amazing to me. I mean, I'm staring with these big eyes, and I don't think we should get used to this blatant use of the legal system on a former president of the United States and the current frontrunner, obviously the current candidate for the next election, to accuse him with the nothingness that they are accusing him with, right? Again, he's supposed to have written, he didn't write, "This is to keep Stormy Daniels' mouth shut" when he sent her money. He wrote legal expenses because he was paying back Michael Cohen for the money. And they were going to charge him with falsifying records, which is a misdemeanor, but the misdemeanor charge, a statute of limitations had run out. So instead they had to come up with a felony, and Alvin Bragg came up with this thing that he did it in order to commit another crime, which is a felony, but he doesn't say what the crime is. And the only possible crime it could be is a federal crime of fiddling with the election laws over which Bragg has no jurisdiction. So nobody knows what he is charged with. And they keep saying, well, it's a hush money trial. Not illegal to pay a girl to shut up. That's not, I'm sorry, there's no law against that. Maybe it's not the right thing to do. I'm sure it's not the right thing to cheat on your wife with a porn star. He says he didn't do it. But still not a crime. So he's charged with nothing. The former president of the United States, the current candidate, is charged with nothing. And this week, it's unbelievable. I mean, I don't even know why it's not what everybody is talking about all the time. It's not even on the front page of the newspapers because everybody knows. Because everybody knows it's nonsense. Only the guys in the trial and on CNN and MSNBC think anything is really happening. So the defense brought forward a witness to testify against Michael Cohen, who had, was a proven liar. But this is Bob Costello. He's Cohen's former lawyer. And Cohen said that Trump was deeply involved in these payoffs to Stormy Daniels. But Costello says when his client, Michael Cohen, was threatened with prison, he was told he would get a deal if he gave them stuff on Trump. Now, here's what Costello told Jim Jordan at the House Committee on the Weaponization of Government. This is cut 6.
Mr. Costello, I swear to God, Bob, I don't have anything on Donald Trump. Who said that?
Michael Cohen about 10 to 20 times.
So not just once, multiple times he told you that while you were his attorney, while you were in consultation with your client, he said that multiple times.
He not only said that multiple times, but he said that after I said to him, knowing that he was suicidal, Michael, think about this. Isn't it easier to cooperate against Donald Trump than it is to kill yourself? And he still said, I swear to God, Bob, I don't have anything.
When you laid it all out, you said, dude, you better cooperate. If you got something truthful on the president, you better let me have it or you're in trouble. And he came back with the exact same statement.
So this is Cohen, suicidal, saying, I could get a better deal if I turn over Trump, but I just don't have anything on him. And then, of course, he gets a better deal and turns up in the courtroom of corrupt Judge Juan Merchant. And I have to say, this guy, Justice Juan Manuel Merchant, he is getting every Trump case. The odds against this are amazing. He presided over the conviction of the Trump Organization's chief financial officer, Alan Weisselberg, and now he's been scheduled to handle Steve Bannon's money laundering case. This is amazing. Who could have ever thought the odds, so many judges in New York City, and yet all the Trump cases come to this one incredibly dirty guy, right? And so the defense puts Costello on the stand and the judge won't let him talk. The prosecution keeps objecting. He keeps sustaining the objections. Costello can't say that, in fact, Michael Cohen was lying. What everybody knows, he's not doing. So Costello, he's a real lawyer. This guy was part of the Justice Department in New York. He's an actual elevated lawyer. He starts rolling his eyes and and at one point he goes, geez. Merchant throws everybody out, including the press. And for some reason, Alan Dershowitz was there and he was not thrown out. And Dershowitz describes what happens. This is cut 7.
I saw him go berserk when Costello dared to raise his eyebrows after the judge made ruling after ruling after ruling that was unfair. I raised my eyebrows. I stared at the judge, and then the judge did something I have never seen in my 60 years of practicing law all over the world. He said to this key witness, I'm going to strike your testimony and not allow you to testify if you ever look at me again that way.
So this is what he said. This is from the transcript. Sir, your conduct is contemptuous right now. I'm putting you on notice that your conduct is contemptuous. If you try to stare me down one more time, I will remove you from the stand. I will strike his entire testimony. Do you understand me? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You can't testify because I don't like the way you're looking at me. I don't like the way you're looking at me, so you can't testify, and I will strike your testimony. So obviously, this judge is incredibly corrupt. And when they asked Dershowitz, how did the jury take it? He said, juries love judges. And I've been in court. I know this is true. The jury is looking at him as a benevolent tyrant. He's in control. Everything is fine. When they're in the room, he's polite, he's nice, and then he goes off after everybody is gone. And the corruption is so deep. When I've always said this, when people get to a certain level of corruption, they start to do it openly because that's part of the corruption is I am so strong that I can do anything I want. That's it's almost the threat involved in the corruption itself. So at some point, if Trump is convicted, it will be overturned, but that's not the point. The point is to hamper him in his campaign, to hopefully turn people against him if that's what's happening, but obviously it's not, but I'll get back to that for a minute. So Trump, unbelievably, he can't travel far. He can't get away from court. He's got to show up in court. So he goes to the South Bronx. Now, the South Bronx has some decent places in it, but parts of the South Bronx are the hood, and they're not very nice. And the people there are A lot of people there are black, but people there of all kinds of colors, and it's AOC's district, right? So he goes into AOC's district and he hammers them. And this is kind of amazing. This is this guy who's on trial. He's being treated like garbage. He's not being treated fairly. He shouldn't be on trial. He's charged with nothing. I'm sorry, I can't get over this. I cannot get over the fact that this is not riveting the nation. We are so used to guys like Biden and the Democrats and the deep state. We are so used to them violating every norm of American governance that we don't even see it anymore. But now he's in AOC's district. This is cut 12 I want to play. Here's Trump giving his speech in her district.
Very sadly, in recent years, we have also seen our city destroyed by bad radical left pro-crime policy that virtually everyone, Republican, Democrat, Independent, everyone, you all know it's a disaster. You know the names of these lunatic policies. No cash bail. Somebody kills somebody. Go out. No bail. Don't worry. Go out and kill a couple of more people. Defund our great police. Defund the police. Sanctuary cities. Release violent repeat offenders from jail. Joe Biden supports all of this insanity and much more, but millions of people across New York know it's crazy.
So this is right in the lion's den. He has walked into the lion's den. And there's a couple of things about this. Well, there was one guy who was interviewed who really said something important. This is the guy. Play him.
What are you here for?
I'm here to watch the Trump gathering rally here.
What do you think about him being here?
I think it's great. I think it's dope. From my generation, from what I know, this is the first time president has actually came to the hood. I know presidents have came to the Bronx before, but we're talking about Woodlawn, Riverdale. He has came to Morrisania, South Bronx, the hood. So I respect that.
See, you have heard me talk about this since my podcast began, is that the Republicans have this obnoxious habit of giving up on people. They think, the blacks are reliably in the pockets of the Democrats. What's the point of campaigning? And when Mitt Romney did it like an idiot, he went to the NAACP, which is simply a left-wing organization, and had to withstand days of being attacked by the press. I mean, just, absolutely vivisected by the press. But when you go to the people there, when you go to the people and talk to them, it's a different story. Why? Because they're people. They need stuff. So Fox went out. AOC said he shouldn't be in my district. He shouldn't be going in my district. And I'll play a little bit of that in a minute. But first, Fox went out and just interviewed some of the people there. I'll play some of this.
Where are you from? The Bronx, actually.
I'm originally from the Bronx and from New York.
I'm from the Bronx.
Right here in the Bronx, New York. This is home, right here.
AOC says if you're not a Democrat, you don't belong here in the Bronx.
Right.
What do you say?
I disagree with that.
I don't think she should be here in the Bronx. I actually don't know any Democrats living in the Bronx.
Look, AOC, look at the tremendous support for Mr. Donald J. Trump. You need to tell her then she need to stay out the Bronx because look at all the people around. Everybody's here for Trump. I am a Democrat. And I belong here.
He's wearing a Trump hat. This is, how can I describe this? It is as if when the law comes after you, it is not a joke. When the law, they could put Trump in jail. They can put anybody in jail. They can charge you with something and not tell you what it is. That's opposed to the Constitution. The Fifth Amendment says they have to tell you what it is. The New York Constitution says they have to tell you what you're charged with. They have done none of that. They have violated all those things. The case should have been thrown out. If they can do it to Trump, they can do it to you. They can do it to me. They can do it to anybody. It is amazing. And so this gigantic monster, like this Godzilla-like monster of the law, comes after Trump, and Trump punches him in the gonads. He's in the South Bronx making speeches about how corrupt they are. You have to sit there and think, it's a great country. You can still take these people on if you've got the guts, which Trump does. So AOC's reaction, I got to play that too because it's great. It is cut 8.
By the way, he's doing it in the South Bronx not to make a point, but because he's got court. And the man practically has the legal version of an ankle bracelet around him, and he can't leave the 5 boroughs because he always has to be in court. And so it is truly an embarrassment to him.
So this shapely dimwit actually says the quiet part out loud. he's in court because we want him there as if he had cuffs on. We want to keep him there because if he campaigns, we're going to get blown away at the polls. That is what they're saying. So it makes Trump a hero. And it doesn't matter, I always say this, I have problems with the way he behaves. I have problems with some of the stuff he's done. I like his policies, but I do have problems with the way he talks and calls people names and all that stuff. But you know what? Part of heroism is situational. Like Oskar Schindler was a Nazi spy, but when it came time to do the right thing, he did. He became a hero. Trump has everything against him. He has all the power on earth, the mightiest country on earth. The government is against him. The courts are against him. The media is against him. The academy and the intelligentsia are against him. All the centers of power are against him, and he doesn't even quail. They have turned him. He was a president before. He was a star before. They have turned him into a hero. And this is the thing. If things are that bad, if they have got everything rigged, if they have got everything sewn up, if they are crushing us, if they are silencing us, if we can't move, if we can't breathe, if America is over, how come this guy is beating the living crap out of them when they're throwing everything they have against him? And why are they throwing everything they have against him if they're not afraid? If they're not afraid, if they're so invulnerable, if they're so tough, if they're Saddam Hussein and they can just take people, why are they bothering? Why are they moving heaven and earth to try and stop him? If this was a tyranny, would they go to the trouble? They wouldn't have to go to the trouble. Look what Putin does. Look what, Putin does to the people who get in his way. And I'm not making any, I don't want to give him any ideas, but I'm just saying they can't get at him. And as big as they are, as strong as they are, all the power at their command, and he's still taking them on, and I think he's beating them. If this fight were over, they would not be so afraid. So maybe we shouldn't be so afraid. All right, it's time to take off your jeans. Now you look ridiculous. So put on the perfect jean. Before I found the perfect jean, I thought I'd mastered the look of sweatpants and joggers, but I was really just one step away from pajamas in public. These perfect jeans offer unparalleled comfort without compromising on style or functionality. The perfect jean offers waist sizes from 26 to 50. That should cover pretty much everybody, and lengths from 26 to 38. They perfectly fit your body and accentuate your assets, pun intended. The perfect jean doesn't stop there. They've revolutionized T-shirts as well. Their perfect tee is as soft as butter and doesn't shrink in the wash like your other tees. Stop wearing stiff and uncomfortable jeans and put your pants on with a perfect jean. Go to theperfectjean.nyc right now. My listeners can use code Klavan15 at checkout to get 15% off their first order, plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges. Get 15% off at theperfectjean.nyc with promo code Klavan15. After you purchase, tell them you found them at The Andrew Klavan Show. That's theperfectjean.nyc with promo code Klavan15. Chapter 3, The Biggest Threat. What am I most worried about when I look at the landscape? It is ideology. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, he said this. He said, to do evil, a human being must first of all believe what he's doing is good, or else that it's a well-considered act in conformity with natural law. Fortunately, it is in the nature of the human being to seek a justification for his actions. Ideology. This is Solzhenitsyn talking. Ideology, that is what gives evildoing its long-sought justification and gives the evildoer the necessary steadfastness and determination. That is the social theory which helps to make his acts seem good instead of bad in his own and others' eyes, so that he won't hear reproaches and curses, but will receive praise and honors. So think about this. The Iranian president, Ibrahim Raisi, the butcher of Tehran, as he is fondly called, the butcher of Tehran. And I'll tell you why he's called that in a minute. His chopper goes down, he dies, right? The State Department sends out a memo. The United States expresses its official condolences for the death of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi. Foreign Minister, also the foreign minister died, and other members of their delegation. A helicopter crash in northwest Iran as Iran selects a new president. we reaffirm our support for the Iranian people and their struggle for human rights and fundamental freedoms. The new president is going to be this guy's son, probably. I mean, they're not budging on any of their policies or their ideology at all. Now, just as a comparison, and I know it's a little bit apples and oranges, well, not necessarily. Here's another Muslim leader of the same bent who was called Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Trump sent Delta Force out to kill him. And this is how he reported the death of our fond leader of ISIS, who we're going to lose. And this was the heartlessness with which he reported that death.
He died like a dog. He died like a coward. The world is now a much safer place. He was a sick and depraved man, and now he's gone. Baghdadi was vicious and violent, and he died in a vicious and violent way as a coward, running and crying.
I miss him when I hear this stuff. I really do. That was great. So it's not like our condolences and we're with the Iranian people. It was he died like a coward, running and crying. Now listen, this guy, I know one is the president of the country and the other was a president of what they wanted. They thought it was going to be a caliphate, basically. But this guy was famous for 5-minute trials, after the 1979 revolution that overthrew the Shah, because Jimmy Carter didn't stand up for the Shah, but he was not a nice guy, so they overthrew the Shah, and they got these Islamists, took power in Iran. They were trying people and putting them in prison with these 5-minute trials, and Razi was part of that. He was part of, in 1988, he was part of a 4-judge panel that was doing the same thing, except killing people. Over at least a minimum of 5,000 people would die. They would come before this 4-man death panel, they'd read them the charges and they'd hang them and they'd be dead. And that was it. And also this regime, the Iranian regime that we're wishing well, that we're sending our condolences to, according to Nick Kristof of the New York Times, a good reporter there, the way they enforce the code of female modesty in Iran is if you don't follow it, if you protest and say, take off your headscarf, they rape you. And they carry you off, and maybe you wind up dead. They bring you to the hospital, and you've obviously been raped, sodomized, and you're dead. And that's how they enforce their. So, and remember too, Hamas is Iran. Okay, you can't say this often enough. Hamas is Iran. They are all the same guys. Plenty of perfectly decent Muslim people in the world. I meet them all the time. Lovely people. But Hamas is Iran. This is the same people, these same rapists and murderers that this guy represented. Hamas is the cat's paw of Iran, out there to destroy Israel before they come after us. This week, the family of some Israeli hostages released movies, those GoPro films that these Hamas people used to brag about what they did, of these young women being taken hostages, and the guys are talking about, the killers and rapists are talking about it, saying, oh yeah, we want this one because she can get pregnant. She's young enough to get pregnant. There's one who said he raped a woman, and then the father raped a woman, and the father shot her. And we have a news media that is rabidly pro-Hamas. There is no pro-Palestinian in that area without being pro-Hamas. That's who's there. That is who's there. All the other people are NPCs. They're just being used as shields for Hamas. I don't want to see them killed. I don't want to see them hurt, but that's going to happen because this is war, because Israel is fighting for its life. And this is another thing, talking about ideology. We can argue forever about who did what to whom in Israel. Remember, the Jews are indigenous to that area. Palestinians have a claim to that area. I know bad things happened after World War I and World War II. People have been displaced all over. This is the only place where it's still a problem. But still, I understand there's hurt feelings and injustices that have taken place. However, I want the world to look much more like Israel, and so do you. And I don't care how much you hate Jews. I know you don't because you're my audience, but still, all those people, the Groypers and all those people, I don't care how much. You want the world to look more like Israel than it looks like Gaza. You do not want a world. Israel is a democratic state. I have been there. It is an incredibly civilized state. The women are treated with respect and have perfectly equal rights. The Muslims are treated with respect and have equal rights. They can serve in the government. They can serve in the military. They're on television as entertainers. They are not oppressed, those who are citizens of Israel. But on the campuses, you have these young women, these feminists, protesting on behalf of these people. You have the actress Susan Sarandon telling you, it's a myth that they bragged about it. They took movies about it. We have the movies. We've seen the movies. They bragged about what they did to the women. And, the left, as one are talking, they have this ideology, decolonization. All countries have conquered, all peoples have conquered, people get conquered from one, nobody is indigenous, there's been fights, there will be fights, there'll be more fights and all this, but decolonization is the ideology by which somehow they transform rape into something that's all right. They deny it exists, but if it did exist, well, it was all right because decolonization. We're talking to Riley Gaines, the stories. I had not really heard the details of her stories, the way she and her and other girls who are swimmers, these are championship swimmers, these are top female athletes, were brought in and told that if they wouldn't swim with men, if they wouldn't let a man come in and undress in front of them where they're undressing in their locker rooms, and that they were the bad people, that they might endanger that person's life because he might commit suicide. These are the, let's go back to Harrison Butker. Remember the Chiefs kicker who made this speech at Benedictine College, Catholic guy talking to Catholic people at a Catholic college, and said this about women.
I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now about to cross this stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother.
So I know I played that last week, but I'm playing it again because the absolute uproar has gone on and on. They went and they got Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, the coach of the Chiefs, and said, well, there are women in this thing, and who work for you, and what are you telling them, and all this stuff. Here's Andy Reid telling him off.
We're a microcosm of life here. Everybody's from different areas, different religions, different races. And so we all get along. We all respect each other's, opinions. And not necessarily do we go by those, but we respect everybody to have a voice. It's a great thing about America, man. And we're just, like I said, a microcosm of that. And I wish, my wish is that, everybody could kind of follow that. So, yeah.
With so many women just on staff here and in the building, his comments kind of touched on women in the workforce. What do you tell them if they come to you with a concern about players speaking ill of, women in general?
Yeah, that hasn't happened. I don't think he was speaking ill to women, but he has his opinions, and we all respect that. I let you guys in this room, and you have a lot of opinions that I don't like. So.
Now, good for Mahomes and good for Andy Reid for standing up for the right to free speech. But the fact that people are attacking Butker as if he should not have said this, when Butker, it's not just free speech, Butker is also right. He's also right. Motherhood is the first profession. It's the only important profession, really. All things are built around that profession. And the power to create life belongs to one segment of the society and only one segment, and that is to women. The power to gestate, create, and nurture life belongs to one kind of person with one kind of body. It is the power that women have. It is the real power that women have. I don't care. It's nothing to me if some woman wants to become a doctor, but I'm just telling you, as a society, as a race of human beings, we don't need any women doctors. We need 0% women doctors. That's how many women doctors we need. Society will lose nothing, except for maybe a few good doctors. We may lose some good women doctors, but we will lose nothing as a society or as a race if we have no women doctors, if we have no mothers. And that's, coming close to reality. The birth rate has dropped below replacement rate all over the world, meaning mankind will die. Women have this power. You want to talk about colonization? Rape is colonization. Rape is colonization. It's colonizing a woman's body and her womb and taking from her that power that she possesses on her own and alone. And a lot of people say, well, that's why you should have abortion. That's killing the wrong guy. The baby didn't do the rape. Somebody should be killed, yes, but not the baby. The baby is innocent and didn't do the rape. But you want to talk about decolonization? Go after those guys. This is why the biggest threat to me is ideology, because it's poison. It not only makes people do evil things like rape and call them good, it makes people support evil things like rape and call them good, and it turns the victims into people who accept the ideology. When women say, no, we don't want to be mere mothers. We don't want to be mere mothers. We want to go to work 8 hours a day and sit at a computer and arrange papers for somebody else who doesn't care about us because that's what really counts. That's the kind of madness. That's the kind of madness that worries me. That's what we're fighting. That's what we're doing right here, right now. Final chapter, faith in princes. And you know that I'm quoting the Bible there, that you should not have faith. Don't put your faith in princes or any human being who cannot save. This is a very important thing because what we're fighting over is ideas. And some of the people who are fighting on their side are good people who are mistaken. Some of the people who are fighting on our side are bad people who are right. And we have to take that into account because bad people will betray you and bad people will do bad things. Ideology is not the only problem. The human heart is the problem. And that's how we have to stand back and look at the situation we're in. Now, the Pope said something this week that I really disagreed with. He was Pope Francis talking to Norah O'Donnell on 60 Minutes.
When you look at the world, what gives you hope?
Todo. Everything.
Uno ve tragedias.
You see tragedies,
pero ve
but you also see so many beautiful things.
Cosas lindas. Uno ve madres heroicas.
You see heroic mothers,
hombres heroicos,
heroic men who have hopes and dreams, women who look to the future.
Eso a mí me da
that gives me a lot of hope.
La gente quiere vivir.
People want to live. People forge ahead. And people are fundamentally good. We are all fundamentally good. Yes, there are some rogues and sinners, but the heart itself is good.
So I made fun of this on Twitter. I said, is the Pope Catholic? Because actually that is not what Catholic theology says about people. But I want to say that there was a correction that came out that the guy translating it made a mistake. He said, yes, there are. That was the part that I objected to most, by the way. He said there are some rogues and sinners, but most people are good. And I thought, well, wait, that's not true. But apparently he was saying we are a little bit rogue and sinners. In other words, we're all sinners a little bit, but basically fundamentally good. That's a little closer to Catholic theology. I'm sorry, I've checked with a number of Catholics about this. It's still not true. Jesus said no one is good but God. Paul said no one is righteous, no, not one. The Catechism says that God's works are good. Of course, God's works are good. His creation is good, but original sin inclines man to sin. And even after you're baptized, nature remains corrupted and you still have to struggle to do the right thing. Now, when I criticized him, some Catholics got upset. They said he was talking about, they said, he was talking about the nature of God's good creation, but he wasn't really. And by the way, I don't think he said anything wicked. He was trying to talk about the things that give him hope, and I'm all for that. But the thing about it is, leaving theology aside, it's simply not true that human beings are fundamentally good. In small, homogeneous communities with high trust and high consequences, because if you do something wrong, everybody finds out about it, most people will only break commandments 6, 8, 9, and 10. They'll commit adultery, they'll bear false witness through gossip, and they'll covet everything their neighbors have. But I saw this in Hollywood where real money is on the table, where you really have to make decisions under pressure, and sex is available for people who are successful. Sex is just available. Power is available, tremendous amounts of power. 85% of people will break the rest of the commandments up to and including murder occasionally. And you'll just see tremendous acts of cowardice and dishonesty. And you have to work hard to do better than that. And not everybody does. Not everybody works hard. People want what they want. And not everybody, a lot of people judge themselves as being better than others because they don't have the opportunity, I mean, I frequently think about baseball players who go on the road all the time and there are all these beautiful women throwing themselves at them and they're young men and you think I think you should do the right thing, but I understand that's a harder situation than you're in if you're just, sitting at a workplace and not encountering that experience, right? Now, people have to struggle with their corrupted nature. That's the whole reason that we don't agree, for instance, that all consensual sex is okay, right? Some things you do are wrong for you. They degrade you. And so when we talk about what kind of government we have to talk about people honestly. We have to talk about people truthfully. If they were you know the James Madison quote, if men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. In framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this: you must first enable the government to control the governed, and in the next place, oblige it to control itself. That's a perfect statement of where we are, given who we are and what we are. We have to have a government that can control people so they don't hurt other people, but we have to have a government that can control itself. And I don't see necessarily how that happens in any natural way if you have a king, if you have an unbridled king. So when we talk about should we give up on America, we talked about on Backstage the cycle of regimes. And this is an idea that really, Noel said it comes from Polybius, and Polybius expands on it, but it really comes from Plato. It's the idea that a strong man becomes king of a tribe, then he becomes a tyrant, so the tyrant is challenged by the aristocrats, like in the Magna Carta, and now you have an aristocracy, and then the aristocracy becomes oppressively exclusionary and corrupt. The aristocracy become corrupt, and the people overthrow that, and they form a democracy, and the democracy becomes chaotic because they start to worship chaos, and they have to bring back the strong man. That's basically, in short, the cycle of regimes. So maybe we're at that place. It may be that our democracy is falling. But the thing about it is that you can't just say that because there's a cycle, every stage on the cycle is equally good. I would say that democracy is a good unto itself because freedom is a good unto itself. You can misuse it. It's the freedom. It is not freedom to do the right thing. That's not freedom. It is freedom to choose the right thing, which unfortunately includes the freedom to choose the wrong thing, right? The right you have to say who governs you is a fundamental part of that. It's a fundamental part of your freedom. Kings kill you if you speak against them, right? So far, they haven't been able to do that. We're speaking against them. Donald Trump spoke up against them. They're trying to stop them, but they can't because they're not kings. They don't have that absolute power of kings. Freedom of religion is part of becoming who you are. Choosing not to have a religion is the wrong choice, but that freedom is part of who you are. That's why God made us free, so we can love. You can't love somebody in slavery, right? I mean, you can love somebody in slavery, but you're committing an act of freedom in slavery. You can't be forced to love someone, which means the government has to protect us from each other, and but it can't protect us from ourself. So when we look at this, when we look at the fight that we're in, what I think about is we have these powerful people who are trying to shut us down, and our institutions are in trouble. There's no question about it. And this ideology that has spread like poison gas through the left is bad because it affects people, even people on the right, even people who don't know they're being affected, who wouldn't think the things that they think. Women have thrown away their lives on jobs when they should have been having children. Mothers are not being treated with the high respect that they deserve by our society. Motherhood is not being, people keep saying, well, she needs time off. No, she doesn't. She needs a husband who can support her. She needs an economy where she can be supported to do this important work. And when she's done, she can do anything, other things. It's just why arrange her life like a man's life when she's not a man? It doesn't make any sense. And the hatred of women for having that power permeates our society. So what I think about is I think about a man standing in an empire, a man with no power in the most powerful empire ever. He's a conquered man speaking to a conquered people. He's a man who has no vote. He is one of the most despised race of men. He is a Jew talking to other despised Jews. And is he calling for revolution? Is he saying take up arms? He says this to the people. He says, you, to the people who have no power, you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its flavor, how will it be seasoned? You are the light of the world. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. And obviously, I'm quoting Jesus Christ. He who brought down the Roman Empire, right? The institutions are broken, but we are the institutions. And the first institution is marriage. And the first institution is marriage, family, motherhood, fatherhood. That's the first original institution. What are the liars afraid of? Who do they attack? Butker. Why? Because he's telling women the truth. He is telling women the truth. He is telling them that the woman who brings a child into the world and nurtures that child into individuality is more important than any person on the planet. The entire society should be structured around her. It once was, now it isn't. It was the church that said this about marriage first. It was the church who protected the womb from colonization, who said, no, if you kidnap that woman and impregnate her, she is now your wife and you have to be faithful to her. It is the church that said those things. That is the structure we have. We threw it away because we wanted sexual freedom. We threw it away because we wanted no-fault divorce. Don't blame the gays. The gays are just getting on the train that the straight people built. The straight people built the train. The gays are just riding it. We can rebuild that. They have no power to stop us from rebuilding that. We can rebuild it, each and every one of us. If we've despaired, we're despairing about ourselves. And I think if we're going to win, we're the face of the victory. There's no reason to give up on what we have. They said it couldn't be done. A new razor introduced on Amazon had no chance of becoming the #1 seller in any category. But because of you, Jeremy's 2nd Gen Precision 5 razor is officially the #1 bestseller on Amazon. Who would have thought that a razor that doesn't hate you and preach at you with leftist nonsense would do so well? We did. In fact, Jeremy filmed this new commercial, the second greatest commercial ever, to promote the new 2nd Gen razors and explain how they have been radically redesigned to offer a truly superior shave. It's the whole point of the commercial, and we figured the best way to communicate that is with diversity and inclusion. Of course, that's right. To show you that our razors are great, we now have Black Jeremy. The only way to effectively tell you that manufacturing was moved out of China was by using minority women. And to show you that we really know what our customers want, we brought on a body positivity advocate. You can see how the DEI played out by watching the new commercial. In the meantime, head over to jeremysrazor.com to get the new 2nd Gen razors and start shaving like a man, not like a manifesto. Klavan Klapbacks.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. He died like a dog.
You're the comedian instead of the Trump himself. All right, from Zachary, Andrew Klavan Gandalf. Every time you bring up Andrew Tate on your show, I always wonder if you have seen the interview he did with Candace in which he expresses regret for, among other things, the webcam business he created. I'm not saying he's the best role model for a young man to have, but I feel you completely write him off as an absolute waste of time. I think if you'd watch this interview, you might be surprised. Sincerely, Zachary. Zachary, I saw part of that interview, but here's my problem with this, okay? The guy's a pimp. And under pressure from the law and trying to restore his reputation, he came on with Tucker and he came on with Candace and he said things that I don't believe. I mean, he defended himself. He tried to change his personality, but we've all heard what he has to say. Why do we have to defend these guys? I don't understand this. You know, I mean, people write me this, they'll say, why are you so hard on Nick Fuentes? Well, Nick Fuentes laughs at people being thrown into gas chambers and says, Jews are alien people who need to be thrown out of our country so we can have a white man's country again. Why do I have to defend him? Why do I don't even have to regard him. I don't understand that. I don't hate these people, but I don't respect them, and I don't respect that kind of opinion. Is there no other person? Is there no semi-decent person trying to be decent who has good ideas? It's as if Al Capone came out and said, that tax system really stinks. And you go like, well, the tax system does stink, but you are a gangster, So why do I have to listen to a gangster tell me the tax? Is there no one else to tell me that? Is there no one else who can talk about manhood? Jordan Peterson, me, people who actually know about manhood, have actually lived as men. And you have to listen to that guy? I don't understand that. I don't understand why we have to cut these guys slack and say, well, not everything he says is untrue. I'm sure that's true. I'm sure not everything he says is untrue. I'm talking about who he is and who I want to be my guide and mentor through life. And it has nothing to do. Why should I spend a minute of my time watching people who say things like that and have done things like that? I don't get it. Ollie, wise and lovely Andrew, this is Allie, I'm sorry. Wise and lovely Andrew, I feel a bit giddy writing this email, as I always agree, so I am never in a position to write a clapback. In last week's show, you mentioned the viral TikTok clip of the wife who's counting off what she doesn't do for her husband. But in this case, I have to disagree. I don't know much about the creator in question, but I do know that both she and her husband work full-time jobs. If these people are in such a dynamic, how is it fair for her to work the same amount of hours as him, yet when they come home, she also takes on those household responsibilities? Okay, perfectly fair. I don't care how people arrange their lives. It's really up to them. It really is. And how they arrange their marriages. I think little children need a mom in the home. I believe that. But I still think you have a right to choose not to give them what they need. That's part of your choice. And if you're working together and you say, well, I like to cook and I'm going to do these things, that was not my objection to that video. She's bragging about what she doesn't do for her husband. And she's bragging in an obstreperous and arrogant and belligerent way and demeaning her husband as she does. He's a grown-ass man. Why can't he do his laundry? Really? I mean, that's your wife? And that's why I thought he should make a thing saying, well, she's a grown-ass woman. She can find somebody else to sleep with while I'm with the babysitter who's taking care of my kids. I just think that, men, Ben was saying this, and he said it really well, that men, are sacrificing something when they go into marriage. They're sacrificing their instinct to be with a lot of different women. This is an instinct that men actually have, and it's very powerful, and it's very hard to shut it down, whereas women are serving the instinct to have someone come in and support and protect them while they produce children and while they make a home, and that's basically the deal there. So you give your husband some respect, that's one of the things he gets is leadership and manhood, children, fatherhood, and respect. And so why is she treating him like that? Like, why is she bragging at all the things she doesn't do instead of saying, gee, I wish I could do some of these things, but I got to work to support us. Does she have to work? I don't know. I don't know what her situation is. But still, it wasn't really, like I said, each couple has to make their own deal. And people are also individuals and they want different things and they like different things. And even their children have a right to have the individual parents that they are. I'm not against individual people making their own things. But why would you go and make a video ragging on your husband like that and bragging about what you don't do? All right, we're going into members block. That means all of you who are not members are now members of a hellish society of those in the Klavanless darkness. So become a member today. Save yourselves. Save yourselves. Go to dailywire.com/subscribe. dailywire.com/subscribe and use code Klavan at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. And then come with us to Member Block.